So I got my first. So I didn't even. I'm not really fond of Christmas. Yeah, if you're looking at the camera, I got my first article in Nat Geo. And I was so psyched. So psyched. I've never subscribed to it. Nothing. And I'm like, okay, it shows up, and I'm like, wow, this is just totally fucking depressing.
Thanks, Nat.
Thanks, Nat.
You depressed?
Okay, so this Nat Geo broke down what's kind of going on in the globe between climate, politics. I forget the other things where it doesn't even matter. It's important that when we look at the data, we have to look at all of it. We can't isolate it and then say, oh, well, everything's fine. For instance, if I'm in Florida, Central Florida, I walk outside, it's a beautiful day in the middle of winter. It's like 70-something degrees. There's nothing wrong with the world. Plants are green. I saw a couple birds flying by. My limited perspective, the limited data input I have.
A few hundred pythons.
Yeah. The limited data I have tells me everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when I scale back? What happens when that individual perspective I have, I carry that across billions of people, and then we're all giving our input on it? We start to see that there's a theme, a narrative that's going on. The world is literally burning. We're poisoning it. We're, at a macro level, killing ourselves.
Yeah.
The thing that actually gives us life.
Our house is on fire. We're
choking it to death. Our homes are on fire. I was fortunate enough, before I get into the Nat Geo thing here with the data, I was fortunate enough to spend a majority of the summer traveling in a Sprinter van, seeing the United States. Do you know what I saw? Nothing. Do you know what I felt? Hot the whole damn time. And let me explain that. Everywhere I went, no matter how far north I drove, I was in the hottest temperatures those areas have seen in a very, very long time.
That's because you showed up and you're extremely hot.
That's what it is.
So you just, I've seen it. We've gone to the mountains or whatever, and you're walking and just melts snow.
Snow's just melting around me. Yeah, my thermal equivalent's like huge.
Yeah, it's what is that when the people they have like super high metabolism and like their thermal energy or whatever is super high. Isn't there a superhero that has that problem? Is it Flash or somebody?
I don't know, but yeah, baseball metabolic rate.
Yeah,
it's like his heat's just exuding. But as I'm driving around, I had the ability to take this micro view of my little world here in New Mexico, and then start to see what that micro world looks like for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm driving, I can't seem to escape the heat. It's horrible. And every time I went to go see a national park or see something in the distance, I couldn't, because the United States was on fire everywhere. Horrible, horrible wildfires. And then I would drive by them, and I would see the people. I would see the farmers. I would see the houses that ceased to exist. I would see the scorched earth. When I started to take all these little experiences and put them together, I saw that something is dramatically out of place. Something is so wrong that we have to do something about it. We need to come together with our micro experiences, what we know, where we live, what we do, our behaviors, and we have to share the data on this. Because people, all of us in our little bubbles, have a hard time putting this entire thing together. But when you can take all those little micros and make a very macro map of it, you see that there are major issues facing the United States and countries and people all over the world. In the Philippines, Indonesia, flooding. Okay? The lack of resources and food and fresh water in Ethiopia and Kenya. Okay? It's the scorched earth in the United States throwing more ash into the air and reflecting more of that nasty stuff that we don't need, heating things up further. There are all these self-reinforcing human-caused issues through our behaviors that are literally shortening our lifespan here on this planet. And if we don't, on an individual level, make a recognition for what is happening, even though we think everything's fine and we think, oh, climate change couldn't be real, right? You need to expand upon your view. You really need to see what is happening here and how interconnected all of these things are. Because I can tell you with great probability and certainty that if there's no change in this trajectory, there's no more human beings. Nature is resilient. Nature bounces back. We won't bounce back. We've been the most parasitic thing to happen in a long time because we're not paying attention. We're not recognizing the course of our action and our behaviors. We haven't collectively looked at all of our behaviors together and analyzed them. And now we have the ability to do it. We have the ability to take a step forward using data to understand the impacts of our human daily lives.
And in any time, we are parasitic, and I want people to understand that statement because this is really important. Anytime we get new technology, whether it's a fire, whether it's a plow, whether it's a horse, whether it's a nuclear bomb, whether it's a plane, whatever it may be, we do two things with it consistently. For hundreds of thousands of years, since humans have existed, we've done two things.
Yeah, go ahead.
That destroy nature and kill other people.
We just create
That's what we do with our technology.
All we've done is create violence with our technology. And now we have to make a choice. If we continue this violence, we create violence upon ourselves. And the violence upon ourselves is the shortening of our life or the generations after us, their lives.
Because, and I want people to understand this, after World War II, and we've talked about this before, after World War II, we didn't want any more world wars.
No.
So there was a huge effort for global leaders to get together and say, we don't want this to happen ever. We don't want nuclear weapons to be released. We don't want any of these things anymore.
Yep.
Great. So they began to take supply chains, and then as we saw during the pandemic with a circuit board, a silicon chip, and we became super interdependent upon all these different countries. Because if we're trading, from South America to Africa to Japan to the United States, and it's going back and forth, and we're all interdependent upon each other, we need each other. So I'm not going to go over to Africa and fight Africa for the lithium, because that's a small part of what I need, so we're helping each other.
Yep.
So this became a huge thing to prevent violence, because that's, unfortunately in our DNA.
Yeah.
Yes. We like to, if we're provoked enough, we will kill.
Right.
And we can, but the problem that we have now, and this to me is not just climate change, but it's everything. We have the ability to decentralize violence.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make this show about violence, but CRISPR, drones, you don't even have to be a nation state.
No.
A small terrorist group can buy a drone and put a weapons on it and do some pretty bad damage.
They can do anything.
You can CRISPR and start changing DNA structure in a virus in a basement.
Yeah.
So whenever we look at this, and then what happened in World War II, then all of a sudden supply and demand comes up, because our lives, we begin to live better lives. We're living the most. So then now I have one place that I can do shopping, one search engine that I go to, one social media, because they're all one. It's all super centralized. We have one bank. We have one Google search. All the other searches aren't even close to what Google search does.
No.
All the social medias aren't even close. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp rules the world.
Yeah.
In social media. So we have all this technology. We have the ability to be able to buy at a whim and get the same day, or worst case scenario, 2-day prime shipping that's controlling all our shopping. So we've all of a sudden, like you said, that chart has gone through the roof of how much we're consuming.
Yeah.
So we've been chopping trees down and not being able to keep up with replanting trees for decades. We went from, how many people did we have in the 1920s? 1 billion?
I don't even think that much.
And
I don't think there was that much.
8 billion now?
Yeah. So how many more
people? And we're consuming like fucking madman?
Toilet paper?
Yeah.
Think about how many trees you got to cut down for toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's ever seen a clear cut. Most people have no idea what that even is. All they know is that I'm going to go get my paper products, and that's it. I don't think
I can have them delivered to my door.
And what we found is that the interesting part about nuclear technology, they realize that when you blow up a nuke, everybody understands that radiation floats around everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not a closed system. But everybody thinks that what we consume in our daily lives is a closed system, when really it's this open, inextricably interconnected system that's having negative effects everywhere.
We've stripped the oceans, we've stripped the mines, we've stripped the open lands, we've stripped the jungles, we've stripped the rainforest.
We've poisoned the waters.
Yes.
And we're just continuing to breed more.
Well, you heard last night, our co-founder, Jonathan, was talking about he couldn't even eat the barracuda.
Because it's so poisoned.
That he caught.
The barracudas on the reefs are so toxic, you can't even eat it. So what about the people that have reliance on fishing as the main part of their diet? They can't eat half the stuff. They're physically poisoning themselves off the thing that allows them to survive. We are raking this earth. Mm-hmm. I've seen it firsthand, us just crippling it. Our politics are highly polarized. You know, we need to...
Well, even towards, let's use...
Go ahead.
Let's use climate change, or we'd like to call it climate stability.
Climate stability, because that's the goal.
Look how polarized that is.
Of course, yeah.
Nothing gets done.
No.
There's no common sense climate change policies.
Do you want to know why? Everybody thinks that all the data is a farce. That's what they think.
On both sides.
On both sides. They don't know where it's coming from. But you know what you can guarantee on TARTLE? You can guarantee that all that data on human behavior comes from a human being. Mm-hmm. And you're going to know damn well for a fact that this is what they're doing. And then all of us, if someone goes to produce a model or an analytical report, I want them to take all of the transactional signatures of data provenance showing all of the human beings all across the world that shared their data to come to this analysis. Not some one-off thing or some group that did a small thing and extrapolated it to get some percentage. This is legitimately what's happening. And some of these numbers on here, how much was the loss, economic loss?
Oh, well, there was a 1 week cold snap, and this is here for those, this is central United States. In February, there was a 1 week cold snap, and an estimated damage was $21 billion.
$21 billion in crop and livestock loss.
Yes.
$21 billion that had to get paid out to help insure against this stuff. Think about fixing supply chains or affording, other people opportunity. Think about what $21 billion in resources can go towards. But because all of us in our collective consumption and behaviors have had a negative effect where we need to pour money into something that didn't need to have money poured into it, when that could have gone towards people that are at the bottom of the barrel with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because we burn up our earth here, it is killing people elsewhere. We need to pay attention to our behaviors. I know people are like, this sounds morbid, I don't want to hear this shit. Well, guess what? If you don't pay attention, your children will cease to exist. Your children's children. There will be no planet. There'll be no good, clean food for them to eat.
Well, yeah, I was talking to, we were hiring somebody from the Philippines, and we were talking about climate change, climate stability, and I said, you realize, like in 70 years, 50, 70 years, the Philippines are going to be underwater.
Yeah.
There's already islands. I was reading about this the other day. There's already islands disappearing, small ones.
And they know that.
Yeah, and they know that. And so I was like, your 3-year-old that's sitting next to you, you're going to be old because you're in your 20s. So maybe you're 80 years old, maybe you're 60 years old, whatever. But that 3-year-old's going to be 40, 50, 60 years old.
Yep.
And they're not going to have a home. It's underwater. Where are they going to go? China?
Yeah. Where's their food going to... And when they do have a home, where's the food going to come from? Mm-hmm. What happens when the virus outbreaks get worse? These things mutate. I mean, you should see the mutation charts. It's got so many mutations.
Yes, and then you look at some places are becoming unbearable to even live. Like some parts in Africa, people can't even live. It's like 100 and it's almost like boil water.
I got no clean water. Disease is increasing. I have a lack of livable space. There's an increase in the human population that keeps going up, and consumption continues to increase. What does that tell you? What happens when...
How do we need to get political about any of those?
None of those things are political. You want to know why? Because it's all human life that is negatively affected. There's no politics in this. It's either you revere human life or you don't. And the thing is, we haven't recognized that. We haven't looked back at it. What does it say for impact over here? So how much over here on the right-hand side? See those little bar charts? Yeah. What's that saying down there?
Oh, it says a UN study found that humans have pushed the climate into dangerous new territory. Under even the lowest emissions scenario, the planet likely will warm 2.7 degrees in the next 20 years.
Okay. Our cars are becoming more emissions friendly, correct?
Yes.
But what happens when there are... Okay, it's one car pollutes less, but there's 5 more cars getting produced. The net is positive for what is going on here because there's more people that need to transport themselves.
Yes.
People have to go further to get resources now because the well that had their clean water no longer exists. It's dried up. All of these things are self-defeating within themselves. We are reinforcing a very negative paradigm for ourselves. And the data here is so inherently obvious. And a lot of us don't have the ability to go around and see these things happening firsthand.
But we do.
And this is where, okay, so talk about my next point. Go ahead.
The greatest change that you can do as a human being is to sign up for TARTLE. And we'll explain that here in a second. But I want people to understand 8 billion people on TARTLE is the greatest weapon against climate change.
Yeah.
It's the greatest weapon against climate change, period. There's nothing that's going to solve climate change better than TARTLE.
It won't.
Think about it.
Why?
Give me arguments on that.
You show me something else. You show me one other thing that collectively could bring everybody together.
Right.
And have them focus their resources and their thoughts.
Right.
To generate truthful analysis on what is actually going on right now. We
could take this $21 billion that was destroyed in 1 week, put that on the TARTLE marketplace, and I guarantee you we could solve a problem. One of the big 7.
Very quickly.
Yes.
We would have all the data, all the information, all the wherewithal to go take the right actions.
Yes.
We could actually know what we need to do next.
And people look at this and they're like, well, you know, how are you so sure on this? Because we're betting on humanity.
Yeah. I'm not betting on politics.
Mm-mm.
I'm not betting on a government. I'm not betting on a central bank. I'm not betting on a big business. I am only betting on people.
Because when people understand human rights, which is one of our big 7,
Yep.
when they understand education and they have decentralized free educational access,
Yep.
when politics is out of the system and big media is gone in these developed countries, and these underdeveloped countries realize that they can get safe energy, that they can work through TARTLE, they can work and make an earning, a living, and understand that they can move up that Maslow's hierarchy, not just to consume more, but to have a consciousness and the ability to understand who they are and why they're here.
Precisely.
Now we have a revolution, and I'm using it in a good way.
Give me that right here. That's what I'm talking about.
But I'm just telling you, I think I always say this at the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
Because this is the end of the days. This is the end of days right here.
This data visualization is
looking
the end of days.
Toward a troubled future is the top part. When we look at these, it's just the data showing us over and over and over again, it's time for change.
Yeah.
And how is that going to happen? You can't, you got to stop giving your sovereignty to the politicians.
You can't do it.
You got to stop giving your economic sovereignty to the banks. We've talked about this 100 gazillion times.
Look at the history of it.
Yes.
It's never benefited you. But if you put the power back in your hands and we all collectively work together.
Corporations aren't going to solve this.
No, they need to be told what to do.
ExxonMobil's not going to solve this. Google's not going to solve this.
No.
They may talk about it and they have all these ESGs and funds and everything else, but all they're going to do is raise the price of your energy.
That's all.
And it's going to help developed countries, but what are underdeveloped countries? You guys that are in Nigeria, we have a ton of people in Nigeria that listen to us. What's that going to do to you?
Does that actually benefit you?
Your governments go back and forth, back and forth. There's no stability. Hey, guess what? United States, there's no stability here either.
We got none.
There's one thing that's stable.
Tell me.
TARTLE.
All the time.
It's all the time, 24/7, willing to accept your work.
Never shuts off.
Yes.
And you can find the value for it, and you can help channel resources and data to those who are actively solving those problems that fall underneath the big 7.
We have 1 billion people that sign up for TARTLE that say, yes, we want to help climate stability. They each donate $1. To some, that's a lot. To some, it's not.
Yeah, but
I would challenge each country. If you're United States, donate $10.
Yep.
If you're UK, donate $10. If you're in Australia, donate $5. Whatever. If you're in China, donate $2. If you're in Russia, based on what you feel is a good amount, a little bit of sacrifice never hurts anyone.
Nope.
You get 1 billion people that do that. We through the marketplace, we have 21 billion like that.
Just like that.
Raised, ready to go to help assist
solving
not-for-profits, NGOs.
And knowing exactly how to apply that capital.
Yes.
Exactly where it's needed. That's why the big 7 is so important. That's why TARTLE is so important. And that's why you and I and the rest of the TARTLE team, we put all of our chips on humanity. And that's what we're going to do into the future. They're our biggest bet.